Hi, I'm Becky Droz. Thank you for tuning in to the Guerrilla HR Podcast. So, when you hear the word travel agent, what comes to mind? I think of somebody sitting at a computer, booking some flights, and maybe a hotel. When I say the words corporate retreat or offsite team building, what do you think of? For me, I'm not going to lie, I think of a shabby hotel, some kind of breakout room, and a trust fall being involved. If those are the things that come to your mind, then you don't know Chemeeka Sparks with Travel Nation. Chemeeka helps companies plan seamless corporate retreats and offsites. She describes her work as creating experiences that transform teams. Let's welcome Chemeeka. Chemeeka, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Becky.
So, creating experiences that transform teams, that sounds like a pretty lofty goal.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. I want to know, how did you get into that? And then I want to hear, how do you do what you do?
Yes. Okay. So how I got into it was I originally became a travel agent with Travel Nation in August of 2021. And I started out doing individual trips, a lot of individual trips. And then they had a group certification. And as I looked at the certification, I'm like, this is a lot like what I've done in other areas of life whenever I worked in different corporate groups and I was the admin. That type of thing just fell into my lap. It's like, hey, you need to schedule this. And there were other team members that I worked with that they were also tasked with that they didn't enjoy it, but I did. And so when the opportunity came about for me to start helping corporate groups with their retreats, with their annual conferences, I'm like, this is a cakewalk for me. I thrive in the chaos. I am one of 6 kids. Both of my parents come from large families. We would go to a family reunion every year that required all of these details, from a room block to transportation setup, food and beverage. And it just became a part of the fiber and fabric of who I am. And so I'm able to bring that for teams, and I love it.
And did you travel a lot on your own prior to getting into this as part of your career?
Yes. That's another funny story. So I did travel quite a bit. I had been to Canada, I had been to California, and then I also had an opportunity to go to Europe for a couple of tours. The first year was to Bulgaria and Turkey, and the second year was to Greece, Bulgaria, and Turkey. And outside of that, I found that there were certain experiences that weren't run of the mill that I really enjoyed. And so being able to bring that to clients, it's like there's a big difference between the Fairfield Inn and the Four Seasons.
Oh, yeah.
And so
and I'm somewhere in the middle usually.
And so one of the companies that I worked with, we had a semi-annual retreat out in Laguna Beach. And they would host our lunch at the Ritz-Carlton there. And that was an amazing experience. Now, I wasn't staying there. I was at the Four Seasons in Irvine. But just the white glove service, the attention to detail, the high touch that they were able to offer to our corporate group. I was just a participant, but I saw what it did for the fabric and the culture of the team.
Talk more about that, because I think that's what's really so important in what you do.
Yes. So here's the thing. Incentive travel is not just about perks. There's a 70% increase in burnout that studies are showing amongst employees. And when you look at it, more PTO is not the answer. An increase in pay just gets absorbed into everyday life. But the trip, if done properly, it goes into the culture. Okay? Employees feel seen. They feel appreciated. You see the money in your bank account, but money against memories, there's no comparison. And so it's that experience.
Yeah. I think when we're with some of these folks that might be on some of these trips, so I think at a lower level, sometimes like the money, like if your basic needs aren't met, you got to start there.
Yes.
But I think we're talking, this is a different caliber, a different level in a sense that, these are maybe real high performers
Yes.
or leaders that are really strategically making a difference for the organization.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the incentive travel, the goal of the incentive travel is to boost companies' KPI, to boost engagement, to address the increase in the mental health crisis that's happening. So let's say you have an employee that you've burdened them with more tasks, you've increased their salary, but they're still disengaged. That incentive travel, that trip, that opportunity, that experience, and sometimes I do have companies that allow the family members to join for even a part of it, it increases productivity by at least 65%.
Years ago, my husband sent me a text message one day. I was sitting in my office when I worked for another organization, and he said, "Hey, we're going to Puerto Rico next month." And I said, "We are." And he had won some award with work. And so it was a big group that got to go. And I had never experienced anything like that provided by work.
Yes.
Yeah. So I definitely felt some of that love that he was, getting for his work and his contribution.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now as a spouse, then when you have a situation where you see that he's putting in more work and he's putting in more effort and you come back from that trip, it helps you to support him and go, you know what? I know he's working towards a goal. Not only that, I know that the company sees his contribution and appreciates it. And so there's that balance because the families, they're a part of that.
Yeah.
They're a part of that picture.
Always.
So
we bring our whole selves to work. So your family, if you're missing because you're putting in extra hours, your family feels it.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you think about, culture and using a trip to influence the culture of an organization, how does that happen?
Okay. So how that happens is the trip is not just about the picture of the trip is not just about what gets done in the office. It's about how it gets done. So team building opportunities, doing things together, whether it's, I had one group that part of their conference was they broke off into groups and they each worked on a different theme or strategy for the company's vision for the following year. Well, beyond that, after the conference, then they each went out and got to do things together, like axe throwing, renting bikes. And so it's not just what gets done, but it's how it gets done. It builds cohesiveness.
Yeah.
So it's working together, and seeing your colleagues outside of the work setting also goes towards that.
Yeah.
Companies want the culture of collaboration. And the incentive travel and the opportunity of what happens in that experience builds that.
I think you really hit on something important there, and that's that organizations say they want the collaboration, and part of what I hear with back to work and return to office is like, well, we want collaboration. But if you just have people coming into an office and they're not doing anything to interact and actually get to know each other, and they're still just getting on conference calls, but they're doing it from a cubicle next to somebody, it's not really creating collaboration. So it sounds like this is something where you're very intentional about those activities so that there truly is collaboration, and then just some of that getting to know each other to have the team building.
Yes.
I think it's Brene Brown who says it's hard to hate up close, or, know, and so it's, I've certainly had situations where I've had coworkers from afar and I'm like, oh, that person, and you're just like, I can't stand them. And then you meet them in person, you're like, they're not so bad.
Yes. And one of the stories that I tell a lot of times is I had a colleague that I worked with some years ago, and she was new to the team. There was a handful of us that had been working together for years. And she came in and just her vibe was totally different from everyone else. And I felt like a sore thumb. And I went to my manager. I was like, listen, she's not working out. And she's like, she was the most qualified person out of all of the applicants. We need to keep her. Well, long story short, a few weeks go past. Ends up, she and I both like Cheesecake Factory. So we decided to go out to dinner one Friday after work. And we got to talking, and that changed everything.
Yeah.
Because I got to see her in a different light other than just behind the desk. And she got to see me as a different light than the person she shared her cubicle with.
Yeah.
And over time, we became the best of friends. We would go places together. We would stay at each other's houses. We had all this fun. And I ended up moving later, and we kept in touch. And then she got a terminal illness. And it was the hardest thing. But that friendship, that bond that we built had lasted all of those years. And I'm still in touch with her kids now.
Yeah. And it just took that extra connection.
Yes.
Yeah.
And people
where you're thinking like, this person's just really not going to work. But that extra connection and then making that true relationship made all the difference.
It made all of the difference. Yeah.
Yeah. I think too, when I think about retreats from a work standpoint, even the way I think of vacation for myself, sometimes it's helpful just to be away, because when I'm at home, even if I'm attending a meeting or doing something on Zoom, like there's still laundry, there's still dishes, there's still the dog that wants to go out 100 times a day. Like all of that is still happening. So sometimes it is nice just to be outside of that, because then you really can focus on other things.
Yes.
The dynamic. That's even just like my own relaxation.
Yes. Yes. The change of scenery is it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And so another thing is, with these different retreats, there are different options.
Yeah.
Yes, you have your all-inclusives and maybe your cruises. That's a retreat. But there are a lot of destination cities like Nashville, Tennessee, Boston, Massachusetts, Washington, D.C. that have a ton to offer for corporate groups that are within walking distance of the city center.
Talk more about some of those options and what a retreat could look like. Again, I mentioned in my opening, I think it's like the Hojo and a trust fall or something, but the things that you're mentioning are so much more. Talk more about what does it look like from the small end up to the grandest of experiences.
Okay, so on a small scale, you would have your leadership team probably coming in a day before everyone else. And you have a small room block for them. And then you have everyone else that's flying in, because it's usually 2 days for the conference.
Okay.
And then they go home on the third day.
Okay.
So it would look like meetings that are anything that the team or the corporate group wants to share, whether it's a sales kickoff meeting, whether it's going over numbers, whether it's going over future goals. So that's more the business side of it. And then after that's out of the way, corporate groups will either do that in an 8-hour session, or they'll do 3 or 4 hours on one day and 3 or 4 hours on the second day. And then the evening, they go out and do things like grab dinner together. I had a group do Top Golf and then Universal Studios. So it depends on the size of the group. Sure. And a lot of times what we do is I'll offer 4 or 5 different things, and we'll send 20 people here, 20 people there, 20 people there, depending on the group. Or the corporation might give everyone the choice, to sign up and choose to do that.
That's nice, because then you can customize based on individual interest too.
Yes.
Because I often hear, forced fun. And so you don't want to invest the money and the time into these resources that you have, and people feel like it's a forced fun activity and they're not getting something from it.
Right. Now that's on the smaller end. On the larger end, you're looking at an all-inclusive resort where they are flying to a beautiful resort on a tropical island, and everything's included. They still have that conference meeting and that sales kickoff meeting, or, as far as goals or numbers, a lot of times your top performers are rewarded or acknowledged in a certain way. And then beyond that, you have free time and downtime. Yeah. So it's still restoring the person. It's work and it's play. You're inspiring, and then you're restoring, and then you're sending them back home.
Let's talk more about that. So I know you've mentioned that you do some of the individual travel in addition to the corporate retreats and events. So when we think about burnout and we think about these events, what are you seeing as far as trends? Are there signs where that company's, they got a lot of people facing a lot of burnout, or individuals that you work with where you think, oh yeah, they definitely need this vacation?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. So for the individual travelers, I get a lot of, people that are busy. Both partners are working or have a very busy schedule, and they will literally call me like, hey, we're interested in going here. And I'm like, okay, and when would you like to go? It's like, on Friday, and it's Monday. So right. I'm like, okay, wow. We can do that. And that's another thing that I kind of bring from the fabric of who I am when I say, being able to operate in the chaos.
Yep.
I
You're
do
like,
it.
I got it. I can make it happen.
Yes, I can make it happen. I had a wonderful client reach out to me for her spring break just this past March. And she sends me a message and she goes, "Do you have a connection with the Four Seasons in Nevis?" And I'm like, yeah, why? She's like, "We'd like to go there on Wednesday." It was Monday. It was
Yeah.
Monday. She's like, "We're in St. Kitts for the week, but we'd like to spend a couple nights there." And I'm like, "Sure, let
Wow.
me, get it set up." So what I see as it relates to burnout is there's not even the bandwidth there sometimes to plan.
To plan. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like we've got PTO, the kids have off,
Yeah.
we need to make something happen.
Yeah.
And that's where I really literally step in
Yeah.
and you tell me where, you tell me the dates, I'll make it happen. You bring the suitcase, here's your itinerary,
Yeah.
go and enjoy.
I know, literally yesterday I was meeting with somebody and I said, "Oh, do you have any plans for your family for the summer?" And she said, "We have ideas, but we just can't get it together. We just have not been able to get it planned to do the things that we want to do."
Yes.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of that, especially like some of my clients that are in the real estate, and they're constantly busy
Yeah.
and building and they're doing wonderful. They're doing wonderful. But to make time for those family plans, it's hard. And I take that on.
Yeah.
I take that on and I love being able to serve them in that way.
Yeah. What do you think is different in the way people plan their travel? Like, because, whether it's individual or corporate, what are the kinds of things that are unique that somebody asks for that just create those unique experiences?
I would say anything like a special dinner. So, for example, with Royal Caribbean, I have added the Captain Circle dinner, where it's a reservation for two, and there's only a handful of other people that have been selected for this, and you have dinner at the captain's table or a galley tour, private driver, excursions.
Yeah.
Those are kinds of add-ons make the experience extra special. Yeah, for sure. Another thing, I don't know if you've heard of Swimming with the Pigs. And
I have heard
Exhibit
of
Bay,
that. Yes.
yeah. So so adding that experience. I had another family before the son was going to get ready and go off to college. They wanted to do the aqua tricycles. So just little added things like that. You don't have to do it, but when they're added, it makes all the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny just thinking about different ways that people travel. Do you find that you get more places looking for that all-inclusive resort, I'm going to mostly sit and relax? Or do you find more people looking for I'll call it a Griswold trip, where you're like, go, go, go?
Griswold trip.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially, I have a lot of families that want to do Europe. And they have highlights of what they want to see. Whether it's heritage travel, so they're like trying to restore their roots or return to their roots and look at that, or they just have iconic places that they want to visit, definitely the Griswold travel.
Yeah.
And so what I do is I find out what they're interested in. So I had a family that did Ireland, Scotland, and London last summer, and they were very much also into Harry Potter. And I just knew that from previous posts, even before they came to me about their trip. And so I'm like, okay, you're going to do the Hogwarts Express train that they have over there, and it's like the actual Harry Potter experience. Now, granted, Universal Studios also has that, but this is like
You're the real deal.
Yes, this is the real deal. And so, so I made sure that was a part of it. They also wanted to drive their boys through the countryside of Ireland. So I made sure that all of their wish lists and bucket list items were checked off.
Yeah. Wow. It's so funny, just the different ways that people travel. For myself, I like both experiences. I can sit on a beach with my cocktail, read a book, take a nap, take a dip, and then just like do it all over 3 times. And it's so funny because my nieces, who we've traveled with, and my brother and his family, they are like all Griswold all the time. But I love it because my sister-in-law, I think she channels some of the same energy that you have, where, we'll show up and she'll have, photocopied pages and be like, all right, we're in Budapest and we have 1 hour. We can either go to this spa where they do this common like come into the area treatment,
Yes.
or we can hike up and see this castle, so she always, like, she's just so good at that. But
Yes.
it's so funny because my husband and I, we took our nieces who are now both in their early 20s. We have taken them to all-inclusive resorts with us.
Oh, wow.
And it was so funny. The first day they're like, well, what time are we having dinner? Well, are you hungry? What? Like, well, we don't have a time for dinner. We're going to go when we're hungry.
Used to it all being
And they're
planned
like,
out.
they're just so used to everything being so planned out. Same thing, next day. Well, like, well, what time are we going to have breakfast? Oh, well, okay, what time do you want to meet? Or you could just have breakfast without us and we'll see you on it's just so funny because the difference is in the way that we travel. But I like both, depending, I like to mix it up. Both situations are fun for me.
Yes. And I also had, and I really enjoyed planning this one. I had a daughter and her dad. And she's actually a professor at Furman University. And so she and her dad were going to go through Marrakesh. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that they were interested in was a camel ride through the Agafay Desert and dinner, like in the desert with the camels surrounded. And I'm like, wow, what a memorable way to spend that time, even as an adult with your parent and having that one-on-one time, or even like with your nieces and just there's a bonding that happens when you travel that doesn't happen when you're sitting at home.
I agree.
And memories that are made,
It's funny you say that. So I actually, I record a few episodes a day, and I just spoke with somebody who works with seniors, and we were talking about the difference in having things and experiences. And I feel like I really value the experiences. When I think about fond memories, it's often being together, and not always even a big crazy kind of trip. It could be something small or even local, but just an experience of going and doing something together.
Yes.
So I think, to your point, that it is in doing these things and doing these things together that is really meaningful.
Yes. And that is something that I also promote to companies when I work with them. It's memories over money.
Yeah.
Because the money can come and go. You also lose money when you have employees that are burnt out, or you start to have that turnover rate.
Yeah.
The company actually loses money.
Yeah.
So when you put your focus on the memories, the experience, and building the culture.
The engagement driver. Yes.
That's the engagement driver. And it has a greater return of investment.
Yeah, because I always talk about, this is kind of falls into my realm of total rewards. And so, yes, the comp is incredibly important. But when you think about engagement and you think about those high performers, you do want to make sure you're touching on all those other buckets. And part of that is the development, and it is the work-life effectiveness and the recognition and all these other things that go with that. What are some things that employers can do that maybe they can't do a big retreat? They're not in a position to do that. When you think about travel and time, what are some of the other options that employers might consider?
Another option would be just a day experience that you bring your employees and their families. So whether that's, depending on where they're located, whether that's a night at a theme park.
Sure.
Okay. And theme parks can either close down the entire theme park, or if you're working with a more restricted budget, they can close down a section of the theme park. Okay, and that can be very doable. And then you have food and, finger foods and things like that. And you have your employees and their families come. Yeah. That's an option. Yeah. Holiday parties, which a lot of companies already do. But anything that you can focus on the whole employee and not just who they are from 9 to 5, they will feel that and appreciate that. And the families will feel it as well.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's such a great call out. We bring our whole self, so recognize the whole person and include the families. Love that.
Yes, for sure.
And if we have people that would like to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
They can go to my website, which is csparkletravel.com. Okay. So that's C, the letter C, the word sparkle, and travel.com. And they can fill out the link to start with booking their trip.
I love it. Love it. Well, I definitely, I want to go on one of these vacations, y'all.
Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming and chatting with me and sharing all these amazing travel ideas.
Yes, absolutely. And I hope that as I see the growing need for companies to really invest in the whole person of their employee, I hope that I can be there to help support them with that.
Yep. Well, we're going to do our best to make sure they know you're here.
Yes. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Becky.
So what I heard from Chemeeka is what I have thought all along. We can solve burnout one passport stamp at a time. Instead of just responding to emails and jumping on virtual calls, a well-timed, well-planned trip might be just what your organization needs to improve retention and engagement or to transform your organization. Thanks for tuning in.
That's it for this episode of the Guerrilla HR Podcast. We hope you found some unconventional wisdom and actionable advice to help you in your own HR journey. Remember, we're all working together to build better workplaces. Want to join in the conversation? Send us your questions, stories, and maybe even your own guerrilla tactics to podcast@guerrilla-hr.com. And if you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, and share with your network. Until next time.